Hey there and welcome over here today. I'm so excited to be sharing this new week of meals with you. I actually made a bunch of meals that I have never made before. I just wanted to change it up and find some new recipes. These were all super delicious recipes, so like I said, I'm excited to share them with you, but I hope you guys are all doing well. And it started to get hot again this past week, so I don't know what the weather's doing, but if you are new here, I would love to have you over at my channel, so go ahead and subscribe down below the video, but let's get cooking. To get us started off, we just made some Parmesan chicken that is baked. So I have 4 chicken breasts right here, and I have it in a 9x13 baking dish. These are thinner sized chicken breasts, so I'm just going to begin to season them up with a little bit of some garlic powder, seasoning salt, and some salt and pepper. Those are all of the seasonings that I used. Over to my smaller sized mixing bowl, I'm going to be adding a half a cup of this plain Greek yogurt. You do want to make sure your Greek yogurt is plain, because if you accidentally buy the vanilla one, this recipe will be messed up. Trust me on this one, I have done it before. And now I'm also adding in a half a cup of mayonnaise along with about a half a cup of some Parmesan cheese. And I'm just going to whisk these ingredients together. This recipe truly is a simple one, so now I'm just going to be pouring this mixture right on top of the chicken breasts, and then of course I'm going to sprinkle it with a little bit more Parmesan cheese and stick it into my oven to bake on 375 for about 25 to 35 minutes, or until your chicken reaches the internal temperature of 165 degrees. Here is my big old plate of food. This chicken came out fabulous. It was really super good. It had so much flavor and that sauce was perfect. I just served it with some steamed peas and some of this couscous. I have been loving couscous recently. Now we're going to be making the best chicken drumsticks. Chicken drumsticks are great because they are a super low cost and they are super flavorful. So we're going to begin on the seasonings first. These seasonings are just a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of some garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and then a half a teaspoon of oregano, a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Yes, that is a lot of seasonings, but trust me, this chicken's going to have a lot of flavor. Here are my drumsticks. I have about 5 drumsticks in this container. You could use anywhere between 4 to 6 drumsticks, and that would perfectly suit this recipe. So now I'm just going to take my drumsticks out of my little container, and I'm going to put this in this large gallon-sized Ziploc bag. To our chicken legs in this Ziploc bag, I'm going to be adding 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce. I'm just going to add that in. If you don't care for Worcestershire sauce, you could use soy sauce as a substitute or coconut aminos, just kind of whatever you like around that nature. And now I'm just going to be adding our seasoning in. I'm going to give it a really good shaky poo, and I'm going to stick it in my refrigerator from anywhere between 30 minutes to about 5 hours to marinate. I didn't have a ton of time on that night, so I only had our chicken marinating for about 30 minutes. So here we are 30 minutes later. I have my cookie sheet right here, and now I'm just drizzling it with a little bit of some olive oil, and I'm dumping our chicken right on there, and I'm going to stick this in my oven to bake on 375 for about 45 minutes. Of course, this part is definitely optional, but I did want to do some red potatoes to go alongside of our chicken. This kind of turned into a sheet pan meal, I guess you could say, but I have about 4 red potatoes right here that I chopped up into smaller pieces. Then I drizzled some olive oil to go on top. I seasoned it with a little bit of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, and salt and pepper. Pretty much the same seasonings that I used for the chicken. I was in a rush that night, so I didn't have too much time to be creative, but I just stirred all of this together. When my chicken only had 30 more minutes of cooking, so pretty much 15 minutes after it was already cooking in the oven, I pulled it out, I flipped the chicken, and then I made some room for my red potatoes. Then I stuck my red potatoes on the same sheet and I cooked these potatoes alongside of the chicken for a remainder of 30 minutes. I did flip the potatoes halfway through cooking. Here is my big plate of food. That chicken came out so yummy. I don't know why I don't cook with chicken drumsticks more often. They're really inexpensive, so if you're on a budget, then go ahead and pick up some chicken drumsticks and it will save you some money. Plus, they are just scrumptious, but this meal was perfect. Even my little daughter, Brinley, she really liked this one. She especially enjoyed the chicken. Now I'm going to be showing you my favorite meatball recipe ever. This one is a winner. So into this bowl, I have a pound of some ground beef right here. This is just lean ground beef. And now I'm just adding in a pound of this sausage. Adding the ground beef and sausage together is just going to add so much flavor. You just wait and see. Now I'm adding a half a cup of mozzarella cheese, a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, and 1 cracked egg. To give this quite a bit of seasoning, what we're going to be doing is adding 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of freshly minced garlic. Adding this fresh garlic is just going to add a lot of flavor in itself. You're also going to be adding a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and this is optional. You could add a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We're not the biggest fans of cayenne pepper in this house just because my daughter Brinley, it's just too spicy for her, let's just say. And then if you want to, you could also add a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And now you're just going to mix it all together. You do see my fancy purple gloves right here, mixing it up. Over here to my casserole dish, I am spraying it with some nonstick spray just for some easy cleanup. I'm rolling our little meatballs out into balls. I'm making it easier on myself, so I'm using a cookie scoop. I'm going to be baking this in my oven on 400 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. Here we are about 25 minutes later. I'm going to be removing our meatballs from our casserole dish with a slotted spoon over to a plate lined with paper towels just to drain any of the excess grease. Now it's time you could do whatever you want to these meatballs. I made them into meatball sandwiches. So I have 2 sub rolls right here. I just added a few meatballs on each of these, topped them with some marinara sauce, put some mozzarella cheese on top, and put them in my oven to bake under the broiler for a couple of minutes. Or you could just put this on top of spaghetti. This would be great meatballs to go on top of spaghetti. Or you could eat these meatballs as is. Seriously, you could do anything you like with these meatballs. I actually put the excess meatballs in my freezer for a super busy night. I could just pull them out of the freezer and stick them in my air fryer. But here's my meatball sandwich. I just served it with a side salad. This one came out so good. I forgot how much I love meatball sandwiches. They're just really delicious. Now I'm showing you a really easy mushroom bolognese recipe. This is actually our meatless meal this week. If you don't care for meatless meals though, you could simply add some sausage to this recipe and it will turn out great. So I just have my 1 container of mushrooms right here and I'm just cleaning them a little bit with a damp paper towel. This is how you clean your mushrooms, and this is actually the best way I have found to clean mushrooms. So if you are trying to clean some mushrooms, go ahead and try it with a damp paper towel. I think it will work for you. I'm just going to be chopping our mushrooms up into pretty small pieces. I do like to chop our veggies up into small pieces like this when I cook with veggies, just because it kind of hides them from my daughter Brinley and it's easier for her to eat them. So if you have smaller children, I do suggest doing that. So now I just put that into a separate bowl, and now we're going to be working on our other veggies. We're just going to be chopping up 2 carrots, 2 stalks of celery, and 1 white onion. While I had my phone out and chopping up vegetables, I thought it was a great time to show you how I meal plan. I've gotten questions on how I meal plan in the past, and I wanted to show you this app. I use this app pretty much every single day, and it's called Favoreats. I currently have the premium subscription, so that allows me to sync my Pinterest account to this. So all my favorite Pinterest recipes are actually on my Favoreats profile, which is so amazing, because if you're on Pinterest every day as well, this is going to help you stay organized, and it helps me create a week of meals. So you know I live in the middle of nowhere, and that is just great for me because I could create my week of meals, go to the grocery store once a week or every other week, and I am so organized anyways. I'm going to go ahead and include a link for you in my description box, so if you want to download this app, go ahead and check out that link. And if you use my name, Julia Pacheco, when signing up, you will automatically be my friend, and I will friend you back so we could see each other's weekly meal plans. Moving over to my Dutch oven, I have 4 tablespoons of olive oil in there that is very hot. I just added our mushrooms in there, and I'm going to stir these mushrooms all around until there's no more liquid in the mushrooms. It took me about 5 to 7 minutes. Now that our mushrooms are completely cooked, you're going to be adding your carrots, celery, and onions, and you're going to stir this all together, and you're going to wait for those onions to get translucent. That's going to take you an additional about 5 to 7 minutes. Now you're going to be adding your 3 cloves of garlic, and you're going to stir this and let that garlic cook for about 20 seconds. Now I'm adding my 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. My tomato paste was frozen just because I had some in the freezer that I had to use up, but you're just going to stir the tomato paste until it's incorporated with the rest of the veggies. Now you're going to be adding your cup of vegetable broth, and you're going to stir this all together, and you're going to scrape all the bits off of the bottom of your pan. And once this is brought up to a boil, you're going to be adding your 128-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. Then you're going to begin to season this up with about 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 bay leaf, and about 1 teaspoon of some dried thyme. And you're going to bring this up to a boil and drop it down to a simmer for about 45 minutes. Here we are about 45 minutes later, and man, my house was smelling so good at this point. I just removed the 1 bay leaf, and then I added about a tablespoon of fresh basil that I chopped up. This step is optional. You don't have to add the fresh basil, but I think adding fresh basil into pasta sauce makes it so good. But here's my big bowl. This came out absolutely perfect. It was outstanding. It had so much flavor. I can't even begin to tell you, this might have been my favorite meatless meal ever. It had so many vitamins and nutrients in it. We loved this one. And that is a wrap of another week of What's for Dinner. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And if you do have any fun recipes that your family makes, go ahead and leave them in my comments down below. I'm always searching for some new recipes so I don't get in a recipe rut. But if you are new here, I'd love to have you. So go ahead and subscribe down below the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.